So what if you could solve a decades-long push for an independent state, not by redrawing massive borders, but by creating a tiny, sovereign religious enclave instead? Well, today we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating academic paper from 2020 that suggests just that for Sikhs in India, and it uses the Vatican City as its blueprint. And really, this is the big question at the heart of it all. It's a pretty bold idea, right? Taking a solution from European history and seeing if it could apply to a modern political and religious issue in India. So, how on earth would this state within a state actually work? Let's break it down.
Okay, so the core proposal, which comes from a paper by Tennis and Samraj, is to create a sovereign religious state for Sikhs, smack dab in the heart of Punjab. But here's the crucial part. It wouldn't replace the state of Punjab, nope. It would exist as this tiny, independent spiritual entity, just kind of nestled inside it.
The name proposed for this new state is the Khalsa state. And as you can see, the word Khalsa means the pure, and it refers to the whole community of initiated Sikhs. Choosing that name is a big deal because it immediately anchors the proposed state in a deep, spiritual identity, not a political one. Now, to even make this idea work, the paper frames the problem in a really unique way. It basically says, look, Sikh nationalism isn't just one big thing. It's actually two separate quests that should be dealt with differently. One is political and the other is religious. And that separation, that's the key that unlocks this whole proposal. So to really understand why this proposal even exists in the first place, we got to take a quick look at the history. The desire for a Sikh homeland is not new at all. It has roots that go back more than a century, and it's been shaped by some really key moments of political and religious awakening.
You can really see the story unfold on this timeline. I mean, it starts with cultural movements way back in the 19th century, which then leads to a political party, and eventually the creation of a secular Punjabi state in '67. But the real turning point, you could argue, is in 1978, with this resolution that calls Sikhs a Qaum, or a nation. That set the stage for much more direct calls for independence, which, as you can see, got way more intense after the military action known as Operation Blue Star in 1984.
And that word, Qaum, is absolutely critical here. As the slide says, it means nation. And this wasn't just, a change in words. It was a fundamental shift in how the identity was being framed, from a religious community to a political nation. That reframed the entire movement.
So, with all that history in mind, how do you satisfy a call for a nation without blowing up international borders? Well, this is where the paper's central idea gets really interesting and points to a very unexpected place: Rome.
And this chart just illustrates the core analogy perfectly. It's simple, right? Just like Vatican City is a sovereign, independent country for Catholics that's located entirely inside Italy, the proposal suggests a Khalsa state could exist as a sovereign enclave for Sikhs, located entirely inside India. It's a really powerful and direct comparison.
And to give you a sense of scale, Vatican City is only 108 acres. That's it. I mean, that's smaller than a lot of college campuses. The whole point is that a sovereign religious state doesn't need a huge territory to have immense spiritual and symbolic power. And this isn't just some theory. There's a real historical precedent for this. The Vatican we know today was actually created through a political deal called the Lateran Treaty back in 1929. After the papacy lost all its land during Italy's unification, it basically negotiated to create a brand new, super tiny, but fully sovereign state.
All right, so that's the big picture concept. But what about the nitty-gritty? How would this thing actually function day to day? Let's get into the blueprint that the paper lays out.
This table does a great job of laying out the proposed division of power. You can see the compromise here. The Khalsa state would have its own spiritual leadership and its own internal security, kind of like the Vatican Swiss Guard. But, and this is the huge trade-off, all the big stuff like foreign policy and defense would stay with the Indian government. Meanwhile, the rest of Punjab just keeps on being a secular Indian state with its own elected government. And the proposed headquarters for this new state. It would be the Akal Takht, which translates to the throne of the timeless one. Since it's already the main center of religious authority in Sikhism, right there in the Golden Temple complex, it's really the natural and symbolic heart for an entity like this.
So, what is the ultimate endgame here? Well, the paper argues for a very specific change in perspective, a reframing of the whole goal, which it says is the key to making this idea even plausible.
And there it is. That one quote really captures the entire essence of the proposal. It suggests shifting the goal from creating a political homeland to establishing a spiritual whole land. By reframing it that way, the idea is that it becomes a lot less threatening to national sovereignty, making it a purely religious quest, not a territorial one.
So the paper boils all of this down into a 6-point plan. You can see it right here. You petition the government, you frame it as a holy land, you make the Akal Takht its center, you let the secular government of Punjab keep running things, you leave foreign policy and defense to India, and then you appeal to the Indian government's goodwill to make it all happen.
At the end of the day, the paper concludes that this model could fulfill a really deep spiritual aspiration without threatening the secular state. The vision is for a religious heart, the Khalsa state, beating inside the body of a secular Punjab, which itself stays part of a secular India.
And that leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking question. Is this unique idea a realistic path to peace, or is it just an interesting academic thought experiment? And maybe more broadly, can a political solution from 1920s Europe really offer a blueprint for solving complex, religious, and national aspirations we see around the world today? It's definitely something to think about.